Hello everyone, this is PK Entertainment and we're back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be a first look at the first trailer for She-Hulk Attorney at Law. Now the series will overall be the 6th Disney Plus show within the Marvel Cinematic Universe after WANDAVISION, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, Hawkeye and Moon Knight. And you can check out my reviews of all of those previous shows, and I'll leave some links within the description. Now most people know She-Hulk, one of the most famous Marvel female characters outside of the ones from the X-Men. The character was originally created in 1980 in a Savage She-Hulk comic, centering around Jenifer Walters, a lawyer whose cousin of course is Bruce Banner, who we all know as the Hulk. The origin of She-Hulk comes when Jenifer suffers a lethal injury and Bruce saves her through a blood transfusion, which of course means transferring his gamma radiation, and this leads to Jenifer transforming into She-Hulk. Now the aspect of the character is very different to Bruce because Jenifer fully embraces the Hulk persona instead of being burdened by it. Becoming She-Hulk fills her with more self-esteem and confidence. She also has far more control over the Hulk rage. Now in terms of the series, the lead role will be played by acclaimed actress Tatiana Maslany, who won multiple awards for her role in the Orphan Black series, where she played multiple personalities and characters. Mark Ruffalo will be reprising his role as the Hulk, which he has played since the first Avengers film in 2012. Tim Roth will also be returning in his role as Emil Blonsky, the Abomination who we first saw from the 2008 Incredible Hulk movie. Now She-Hulk the series is due to debut on Disney Plus on August the 17th, 2022 and will consist of 9 episodes which will be around 30 minutes each. Now when it was announced that She-Hulk was being introduced into the MCU, I had very high hopes as I think she's an awesome Marvel female character. And I'm actually still of the belief and actual surprise that she actually wasn't brought in within a live action movie, because I felt to fully render and create the CGI creation that would be required, you would need much more of a big budget cinematic movie. The standard that I would deem in terms of the CGI should be on the same levels of what we saw in both the Hulk and also Thanos within Avengers Infinity War. Now the title change to Attorney at Law alongside the confirmed tone of much more of a legal comedy has got me slightly worried as to how much She-Hulk that we'll see, especially after the Moon Knight series, where we basically only saw the lead character for a total of around 15 minutes over the 6 episode run. So when we go on to the trailer, and after seeing it, overall I have to say I'm very mixed in terms of the show. Now on the plus side, I think Tatiana Maslany will be great in the lead role as Jenifer. It seems that she'll have very much of that rootable likability, charisma about her, and when we look at the first couple of scenes, she's very much established as a lawyer, and here we see that she's selected to be the face of a superhuman law division, which makes complete sense. If we're going to see She-Hulk coming against certain powerful metahumans, it's perfect logic that we have Jenifer Walters interacting and being amongst these more superpowered super beings. We see later on in this shot where we see Jenifer seeing Blonsky in the cell, and it will be interesting to see how he ended up there, because we saw Abomination last make an appearance in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Now there has been speculation that this series in terms of a timeline actually takes place before Shang-Chi, which kind of makes sense if Abomination is to escape his capture. Now we do get a clip later on where we see him transform into his monster form, so will he break out and actually fight She-Hulk? I just hope they make good use of the character, and whether he will be the main antagonist of the series, we will wait and see. We then see later on scenes of Jenifer and Bruce very much in his Professor Hulk form that we saw from Avengers Endgame, where they're located in some remote island and he's teaching her on how to adapt and harness the Hulk powers. We have the sequence here where they're both in a lab and we see Jenifer testing out and trying to reawaken her Hulk powers. Now I'm sure the line of transformation and anger being the baseline of every woman existing will trigger a lot of the usual reactions online claiming some form of wokeness and feminist agenda. But in terms of the relationship between the two characters, it seems that there'll be a good positive rapport and dynamic between both Bruce and Jenifer. There'll be no putting each other down or trying to one-up each other, and I think this is overall very good because it should be much more of a supportive and collaborative relationship between the two personalities. And I think overall in terms of the tone, the show has that very upbeat and bright spirit, which is very good for the character, and I think it's the right approach when adopting She-Hulk. It seems that they will very much follow the source material, with She-Hulk very much being out in the open in terms of her identity. We see her later on in certain clips in her Hulk form, walking around in her lawyer suit. She's sitting in the bar drinking with her friends. We see her later on amongst other women expressing herself, very confident with her figure, and this is all very good and very true to the overall personality of the character. We see the narrative of Jenifer trying to juggle her own life with the She-Hulk identity, with paparazzi following her, friends asking her whether she will join the Avengers, and how she just wants to be an anonymous lawyer. So I think in terms of the She-Hulk personality, I think they've got a good take and hold on the character. Now we do unfortunately have to talk about the big issue of the trailer, and that is She-Hulk herself. Now when I talk about this, I'm really focusing on the actual look of the character, but we have to be honest and say in terms of the effects, they very much look unfinished. In terms of her face, which is obviously a mo-caption of Tatiana's face, the texturing looks incomplete with the facial movements and expressions not really flowing right, and the colour contrasts look very faded, and it's just not as seamless as what you'd expect. Now they've adapted the far more supermodel slimline figure that we associate very much with the John Byrne comic book run Sensational She-Hulk, which again I think is the right choice for the character. But in terms of the movements and in motion, it just looks very blurry and very plastic like. We have this shot here where we see her and Hulk jumping up in the air, and when she lands it just looks very off and very rigid and almost uncoordinated. We see another shot here where she steps out in the car in her silver dress, and the proportions, they just don't look right. It looks a bit awkward in terms of her movement. We very much again look at the rendering of her hair, and it just doesn't feel natural. There's very much of a disconnect to the way that She-Hulk is moving amongst all of these more realistic scenes. We even talk about the syncing in terms of her speech, and it just doesn't flow right in terms of her words and her mouth, and it gives me very much of those vibes of what we saw, if you remember, from Tron Legacy way back, where they were really trying to first perfect this whole idea of a CGI rendering of human characters. We have this other scene here where it seems like she's battling some sort of supervillain within the courtroom, and again the movements just look very blurry, and when she runs towards the villain it just looks off. It just doesn't look natural enough as what we would expect by now from superhero series and content. Now many people will say that they still have time to work on the effects. The show itself is due out for another 3 months. But I just think in terms of She-Hulk, especially with the character herself, you'd think that they'd want the first impressions to be the best, to really pull in people to this overall show. Now the trailer was showcased as part of a Disney presentation, and you do very much get the feeling that they rushed this trailer in order to show something for the investors and audiences. And when we look at the Phase 4 content overall, Marvel really didn't have anything else. We all know that the Miss Marvel trailer is already ready to go. They've already shown the first trailer for Thor: Love and Thunder. Black Panther is very much in post-production, so they won't really have any footage. Same with the Marvels movie starring Brie Larson as well. So She-Hulk was really the only live-action content that they could show, and I just get that feeling that they kind of rushed it. And whether you like it or not, in terms of the overall series, regardless of the performances or the dynamic between the characters, the show really lives or dies by how good She-Hulk looks. And if she doesn't look convincing, then the show fails, and it's as simple as that. So for me, it's a very disappointing rendition so far, especially when you consider that this is a show by Marvel and Disney, who have all the infinite resources and money in the world. I just expected something better in terms of a visualization. Again, as I mentioned before, we really should be something on the same levels as both the Hulk and also Thanos. So again, in terms of the tone and personality of the character, it's absolutely fine, but some major work is needed in terms of the CGI, and at this stage, in terms of She-Hulk, the look herself doesn't really do full justice to the overall character. But we'll wait and see overall when the series arrives on August the 17th. As I mentioned before, they do have a couple of months to hopefully make some major improvements in terms of the presentation. We've seen recent examples in terms of Sonic the Hedgehog, how they put out the first trailer and the fans weren't happy, and then they went away and very much improved the overall visualization of the character. So hopefully we can see a similar effect for She-Hulk when it arrives on Disney+. So those are my overall thoughts and feelings and review on the first full-on trailer for She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you fully impressed with this first representation of the character, or do you feel there could have been far more of an improved look, especially when we've seen far more superior visualizations in terms of both the Hulk and Thanos, and even Abomination himself, and even the previous Hulk versions from also the 2008. The MCU tends to be very good in terms of visualizing the characters from the comic book pages, so I just hope we can see the same treatment for She-Hulk, but we will wait and see when the show overall releases. And as usual, when I cover all shows within the channel, I will provide a review of the premiere episode. If there are any standout episodes throughout the series, I will review those and also provide an overall season review. So look up for those all within the channel. And of course, I will review Miss Marvel when it comes out, I believe, at the end of June. And also for Love and Thunder, the movie itself, when that arrives on July. So you'll see plenty of Marvel coverage so far of Phase 4 within the channel. If you have any other series or superhero shows or any other general shows that you'd like to see me cover within the channel, then let me know within the comments, and if I've seen them, then I'll also provide commentary on that content as well. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.